Bang! Neeves Knives, I'm Jared, and today we're checking out some new knives. We have a couple of them. This is the new Artisan Crusoe, designed by Nick Rogers. Now, this, there's a lot of good things about this knife, but I do have a few things that bother me about the knife, and I hate to start off negative right off the bat, so let's talk about some positive. We have a beautiful, straight clip point blade. This is going to be a highly functional blade shape for EDC. The tip is relatively low. It's not centered with the pivot, but the pivot is a little offset. So I think it would have been, and I can tell that this is a very easy tip to get to, whether you're poking into something, doing utility cuts, or what have you. Now, that same blade shape is going to work really good for cutting down on flat surfaces too, with the belly. And the blade steel, being S90V, is going to hold an incredible edge. That is a great stainless steel. It's got great stainless properties, insane edge retention. Not the toughest steel, but it's plenty tough for a pocket knife. And it does get down to, a decently thin edge that's not fragile. This is going to be a semi-tough, slicey knife. The handle, we have a titanium frame lock. And I like the micro milling pattern right there. It looks really good. Reversible titanium clip. Looks like TA hardware on the body screws, but we do have a T6 on the clip. And you can see how the pattern transitions over the lock bar. And I love that they put the lock bar cutout on the inside. That's awesome. Sharpening tool and plunge grind, I'm not going to complain too much about it. It's okay. It could be a little better, but you know what? You got a couple sharpenings in there. You'll have no worries. Love the access to the lock bar. That is something like I love having as much as possible, and this has as much as you can even imagine. It's almost too much, and that's a compliment on my behalf. Now, the thumb studs are distant away from the scales, making them easier to flick and really get, a lot of force onto. And they're large. These are nice large thumb studs. I like large thumb studs, and they work really, really well. The thumb studs could be a little grippier, but they work. Now, so with all that said, what are my negatives? So one thing is the front flipper, right? They should have cut this back right here. This peak right here does not work out. And here, so when you go to flip, you never want your front flipper to get hidden behind the scales. And if you look right there, see how it's hidden now? So that means I'm going to have to, when I come around, I'm going to hit these. That's one thing, but that's not even the issue. So the big problem is that when you break the detent with the front flipper, you come around and then your finger hits here and it kind of stops, and then the thumb stud comes around and pinches you in between there. And it's pretty significant. I've been pinched multiple times. It almost makes me not even want to use it. So what I do is I have to flip it and do a little wrist and kind of just pop it like that and let my thumb clear it, which is not a satisfying front flip. So that's probably my biggest issue on the knife. And and it does, who wants to be pinched, right? And all it takes is just this edge to be knocked down, because it's not like this is, the stop for the thumb studs. So it does have an internal stop pin. So there should be no issue with doing that. I wouldn't imagine, unless if it's because the track's in there. I see the track. No, there's plenty of room to chop it off. Now here's the next negative I have. They knocked it out of the park with putting this in the inside, because now having the cutout for the lock bar on the inside means that the clip has clearance. Means when you slip it in and out of the pocket, it's never going to get hung up on this little transition. But then they put the clip on top of, instead of the smooth area, they put it on top of the textured area and on the spine. Never ever should a company, there's some rare exceptions when you can put the clip on the spine, and this wouldn't be one of them. This should have been centered with it, and then it would be centered right here as well, and then it would land in the smooth area, and it would be, obviously this would be cleared, but then, you wouldn't have the clip landing on the texture, and also in the hand, it lands in a bad spot in the hand. Now, the smaller the knife is with a clip on the spine, the worse it is. Now, the bigger a knife is with a clip on the spine, it's not as bad. So this is a large knife, so it's not as bad as it could be, but I still do feel it. Now it's not, that part's not a deal breaker. But you feel it. But I prefer not to feel it. And I think they had all the room in the world. So I just think that that was a huge miss. Another thing, the blade to handle ratio is so off. Like, look at how much more room they had, but not even just that. Look at this. Look at how much room they had on the back of it. Like, I can, here, let me see if I can get my pinky in there, and you can see I'm not even close to hitting that edge. Like, they had enough room to make this a broader blade and a little bit longer. Or narrow out the handle and make it a little shorter. But, you know, just like looking at all that room in there, it's like, whoa, like that just seems like a huge miss. But, you know, it's not that, you can see right there, it's not that big of a deal. And I do appreciate the shape of the handle. The handle does feel, you know, good. It does have corners that could have been knocked down, but that doesn't bother me really, you know, but you know, it's just a thing. I like the feeling right here in the hand. It feels really good. I like being able to wrap around and this being right there, because I know some people talking about gripping a knife and then this having the cutout and your finger landing there. I think that's more comfortable to have that there, because then my finger's not having a hard edge to go over. It's literally the shape of my grip. So yeah, so those are my main negatives. And, you know, to me, like, they could be changed. Like, this is something that could easily be fixed, but I know that they're already in production, so they already have them. This is something that I think could have went into prototype phase, but, you know, hey, it is what it is. Let's check out the next one. Now, the next one is a very sleek design. I really, really love this design. I do have a little negative, but I mean, this design is just, it's a pretty knife, and it's, I don't want to say pretty because it makes it sound feminine. It's a good looking knife. It is very sleek, very slim. The profile is really nice, and you know, a profile like this in the pocket is going to be great. Has micro milling over the titanium frame lock, which is really nice. Titanium milled pocket clip, and then I believe this is titanium hardware, and it is large hardware except for the steel lock bar insert and then the clip. Then we have front flipping action. Oh, by the way, this is the Artisan Low, I think, LO. Now, if you look at the front flipper, they have the nice sharp jimping. Same thing with this one. They did good jimping. This is the type of jimping I like. It's fine, and it's nice and sharp. This one has kind of the same. It could be maybe a little sharper, but it's fine. But then if you look, it peaks up right there, right? Now, we're going to get into that in a second. First, we need to go into other details. S90V blade. Love S90V. I think S90V is a phenomenal steel for pocket knives. And for a knife this size, you're looking for edge retention. You're not looking for toughness. You're not prying with this thing. You're not doing crazy stuff with it. This is something you want to have long-lasting edge retention. And this is a beautiful blade shape for EDC. It is basically a sheep's foot blade with a little bit of belly, which makes it to where, one, you can cut down on a flat surface, but two, you have a low tip for utility cuts. And, you know, it doesn't have so much belly that you're going to slip. So you're going to have a very comfortable slice, like, you know, for slicing. And the handle being slim and narrow, you know, it's small, but it's not uncomfortably small. It's literally like, it's a comfortable small, which I like. And the pinch grips are going to be amazing with this. And having a neutral grip like this, it doesn't matter what grip you have it in, it's going to be comfortable. And I appreciate that. Now, the plunge grind is, could be better. You know, they did almost hit the edge. You know, you're going to get a couple sharpenings in. I don't want to complain about it too much, but let's go back to the action. So the action of the front flipper. So the peak right here that you see going up over, the problem is like the other one, this goes behind the scale right there. So when you go to flip it, if you go at the top, you can't do it. You wind up hitting right there, and it stops you unless you give it a little wrist. Right, then you can do it. So the reach over is not satisfying from the top. And I don't find it very satisfying. However, all you got to do is go to here. If you change your grip to push right there, then it's snappy. then it feels like, whoa, it's like, wow, this is actually a good front flipper. So, you know, there is parts of it that I do appreciate. And when I reach over, I got to reach all the way over, right? So, but my thing is that why not just knock this corner down so that the front flipper has clearance all the way around? Because that way, detent is strong, man. That way you have the clearance. So if you wanted to grab that right here at the peak, you're going to be able to still flip it without, you know, having an issue, and you'll be able to go from the top instead of the front. Now, I find it very satisfying to use like the back or like the side of my thumb like that. For some reason, that just, you can really kick it off. Now you can also just use the front of your thumb. I can do the side finger sometimes, but it's not the best front flipper for that, and it's not the best front flipper for the reach over. But it still does work for most of them when you know, if you put some effort into it. But the satisfying part is definitely that one right there. Now, the lockup. Nice solid lockup. They definitely do not have an early lockup on the one that I have. It is like 60-70%, which I don't think is that big of a deal. This is a very thin blade, and usually with thin blades like that, you typically are not going to have super early lockup. So this seems like it's going to have nice, strong lockup. Now, my next negative thing, really quick, I just want to get these out of the way. The lock bar access, man, they look at that. There's no lock bar access at all. There's a little tiny chamfer right here and on the other side, but that just makes it thinner right here. And so you do have to come around from the front, and you got to hit that edge and push it over. Is it that big of a deal? No, but I prefer to have access. I prefer a nice cutout right there where I could just come from the side. At the very least, even if it's just a little bit, because I understand this isn't a large knife, so you don't want to put a big old hole right there, but maybe just a little bit. That would have made it way more comfortable to disengage. Now, when you do disengage it, it is very smooth, and the detent is, you know, not super early, but it's very easy to get past. It does have drop shutty action. You can tell it's on ceramic caged bearings. And then the clip is a little tight. It's a stumpy little clip. I think that two things could have happened. Either one, put the lock bar cut out on the inside, or two, just extend the clip a little bit. Now, I didn't have an issue hitting this, by the way, but it does have sharp corners. My issue is just that this is such a short clip, and anytime you do a short titanium clip like that, the tension is like super strong. So that's my issue with it. Now, that being said, that is also what's going to prevent it from slipping out of the pocket and things like that. You know, it is a small, I mean, maybe it's not very light, but it's a smaller knife. So it's light in the regards of knives, but it does not have any milling on the inside, which do not care. I do not care about that at all. I didn't do that on my own design because, or at least on one of my own designs, because I don't care. Especially when it's not like crazy heavy, right? And this is, I actually like the weight of this. The weight of this makes it feel like I have a premium knife in my hand. Sometimes when you get little knives, not little, this isn't little, but smaller knives like this, and they're milled out like on the inside, they're so lightweight, it almost starts defeating the tool feeling. So I like having a knife where it feels like a tool in my hand. And this grip, I love it. It feels really good in the hand. I actually can feel it when I touch it with my fingers. The satin finish is a very fine satin, so it does collect some fingerprints, but man, it looks good. And that is definitely going to help with corrosion. They could have just done a deeper satin, but you know, it's a very fine satin. It does look good. All in all, love the grip, love the blade shape, love the cutting, you know, performance, you know, and the steel and, you know, all of that good stuff. I'm not 100% sure how Artisan's doing their S90V. I hope they're doing a good job with it. I do have plenty of it, so I could test it. And I have tested some of it, but I've never done a controlled test. A controlled test is a big difference. Like, I can have my opinion on the steel based on my use and sharpening and stuff like that, but that's a very small part of, you know, doing a controlled test. A controlled test means you're getting data, you're getting actual numbers. So maybe we'll do something like that in the future. But all in all, I do like this one quite a bit. The little details I'm mentioning, I would love to see changed, but if they don't, it's also not that big of a deal. But, you know, I technically could just cut my own lock bar access in if I wanted to. And I do have videos on that if you ever want to watch. So there you guys go. Work hard, stay tough. Till next time, peace.